So for whatever reason...
Your hair is fucking hell. Are you a Sith Lord? Are you the feminist equivalent of a black belt? Is that what this is? It goes red, yellow, orange, green, blue, purple. And then any two colours besides brown or black. It's karate from Bizarro World. Only when you can out-victim every challenger do you get your multicolour stripes. So other feminists see it and go, oh shit, stay away from her, she's alpha as fuck. She successfully prosecuted the fossilised jawbone of a Homo erectus for triggering her with his name. Alright, you want to play wacky headgear? Challenge accepted. My hair is green. Like everything between your heart and your spleen.
You found yourself in an argument against feminism.
How is that even possible? Fawn. Fawn Mead. Fawn Mead, is that your name? Sounds delicious. So, how is it possible to have an argument with feminism? You'd think it's only possible to have an argument with a feminist. Now, you can only argue with an ideology if that ideology has tenets that are confirmed as canon. Feminism has no such tenets. All feminists believe in equality, you say? That would be rather presumptuous, wouldn't it? There are radical feminists with whom you disagree, aren't there? They claim they believe in equality, but you can tell from listening to them for 2 sentences that they believe nothing of the sort. They believe in killing all men. That's not equality. You understand that, but they don't. Because they're fucking nuts, aren't they? So in my experience, a belief in equality is certainly not the most common ingredient in feminism. Not the most ubiquitous tenet. In my experience, when you meet a feminist, there's a very high probability they'll believe in the wage gap. There's a reasonably high probability they'll believe in patriarchy. There's a low probability they'll believe in male genocide. But there is a 99% probability, with an error margin of 1%, that they will believe women are unlucky to be women. That women are victims of life because they are born women. And the corollary usually follows that men are lucky to be men, and men are primarily responsible for fixing this female victimhood that you all can't seem to shake off by yourselves. And just like the radical feminists who want to kill all men, they think they believe in equality, and so do you. You will vehemently deny that you believe this. You'll say, no, I don't think women are victims. I believe in equality. And then you will go on to describe patriarchy and the wage gap as though they are not stark illustrations that you do indeed believe in the erroneous notion that women are victims. Yeah, you've already touched on an interesting turn of phrase there, Fawn. If it can be said that I don't argue with feminists, I argue against feminism, then I'd like to say I can confirm that. But only if feminism is defined as above. I do indeed frequently find myself in an argument against the dogmatic belief that women as a group are victims. And if, Fawn, you miraculously turn out to be the first feminist I've ever met who doesn't argue from the perspective of that dogmatic belief, then I will drink to you. Otherwise, I will just drink around you. That's my opening piece, my dear. Do you have a rebuttal?
But here's the thing. Your argument sucks.
Around you it is. Oh, and please don't suck shame me.
Let's start with the most basic shutdown against feminism. Feminism is sexist. You've come to this conclusion because...
It's not necessarily a conclusion, darling. Sometimes it's just a proposal. How do you feel about proposals? Are they sexist?
Because you've been taught that sexism is basically the prejudice, stereotyping and discrimination on the basis of sex.
Yes. You don't even need a dictionary for that, do you? Even in the case of an argument between two people, if you both know what sex means and you both know what ism means, then you both know what sexism means. Same with racism, as long as you both agree on what race means. Same as men's rights advocate, as long as you agree on what each of those three words mean, or whatever. I thought of a thought experiment. It's a weird sentence, but yeah, it's sort of a logical razor, I guess. If you're having an argument with someone, an argument that boils down to the definition of a word, right? What do you do if there's no dictionary to hand? No internet, no books, no nothing. How do you have that argument? If you're maybe on a desert island or something and there's no future possibility of access to a dictionary, is it even possible to have that argument? I'm fairly confident some people will be saying no, and some people will be saying yes. And the answer is, of course, yes, of course it is fucking possible. You can have that argument because you shouldn't be ground to a halt over the definition of a word in the first place. You should be unpacking what you're each trying to express and arguing about the contents you just unpacked, rather than arguing about the brand name on the now empty pack. It's a grizzly bear. No, it's a Kodiak bear. No, it's a grizzly. No, it's definitely a Kodiak. Okay, hang on. It's brown. It's huge. It's hungry. What are we trying to figure out here? It's gonna kill us. Yeah. Oh, you're dead. I mean, that's not the definition of words. That's the application of labels. But it's the same shit. It's the same stupid, time-wasting, fucking foolery. The answer is yes. You can have that argument because you can fucking discard it as a pointless argument. If you answered no just now, no, such arguments are impossible to get through without a dictionary, then you deserve the title of fundamentalist dictionarian. The lexical authoritarian, if you will. You are unwilling or unable to get beyond labels and understand the first thing about what those labels are for. If you can't make a decision without the dictionary, then you're just as fucked out and useless as someone who can't make a decision without the Bible. Like, if there's two of you on the desert island arguing over a word, one of you is insisting on the dictionary definition and the other is insisting on the biblical definition, you are both fucking retards. Snap out of it and figure out how to survive on this godforsaken island. And guess what? The desert island doesn't even fucking matter. It's just there for the sake of the thought experiment, because exactly the same principle goes on a desert island as goes for us lot standing here in this vast electronic metropolitan library. You cannot solve any of your problems with dictionaries and Bibles, because dictionaries and Bibles are just other people's solutions to problems that don't fucking exist. Wake the fuck up, put the fucking books down, and talk to each other.
Right.
Does my argument still suck, Fawn?
Before I even get into this, I just want to state that it's impossible for the oppressor to be the oppressed.
Can I leave it there? I'm tempted to just leave it there. Check this out, Fawn. I think it is possible for the oppressor to be the oppressed. And you think it's impossible. Who is the oppressor? Without even naming any groups, who is more likely to be a member of an oppressor class? Someone who thinks anyone can be an oppressor, or someone who thinks there's no possible way I could ever be an oppressor? Nothing you choose, nothing you decide on, nothing you enact with your personal agency can possibly ever be as egregious as my born, unchosen identity as a male. Is that right?
That's the nature of oppression.
Germany is a very young country, Fawn, compared with most of Western Europe anyway. Early in its life as a country, its people became convinced that they could not possibly oppress anyone. Because they had only just come into existence as a country, after all. They didn't do nothing. They can't do nothing. After all, they were oppressed by the Roman Empire 2,000 years ago. Checkmate. Are you seeing the problem there, Fawn? It doesn't matter how young and innocent you think you are perfectly capable of oppressing people, even people many times your size. Because we are not dinosaurs, Fawn. We are not even fawns. We are higher apes. We're one of the very few species of large mammal who respect small things even more than big things. Get on board, Fawn. Order your thumbs today.
Being offended by something is not the same as being oppressed by something.
Write that down, please, Fawn. I'm serious. I know you've got a computer and shit, but write it down on a scrap of paper so you've got something tangible to hold in your own handwriting. And look at it while you're listening to me. Write this down. Being offended is not the same as being oppressed. Have you done that, Fawn? Wait, don't punctuate it yet, Fawn, because after you've written the word oppressed, I'd like you to change to a thicker Sharpie, preferably in a striking colour like red, and write the two words that will complete the phrase. Being offended is not the same as being oppressed or harassed.
So bearing that in mind, quite simply, sexism is a form of oppression.
Bearing what in mind? Everything you just said, or everything I've just said as well? Are you going to bear any of that in mind, Fawn? Or does none of that shit matter because I'm just a Nick misogynist?
I am not saying that men don't face negative stereotyping, and I am not saying that men don't face prejudice and oppression in society.
Then what the fuck was this, please?
It's impossible for the oppressor to be the oppressed. Men, the oppressor, men, the oppressor, men, the oppressor. I'm not saying that men don't face oppression. I'm not saying that men don't face oppression. It's impossible for the men to be the oppressed.
It's not taking your words out of context, Fawn, and it's not what your Duplo bricks pseudo-intellectual friends call a straw man. I am simply performing the basic mental functions that you did not perform by yourself anywhere in this gymnastic routine of yours. I've fixed the connection that you severed. I'm using the medium of video editing so as to put the pieces back together. Rediscover communication.
However, only oppressed people experience all of that, as well as it being institutionalized and systemic.
I'm not saying men can't be oppressed. I'm just saying it's impossible for men to be oppressed. Because buzzword 1 and buzzword 2. Thing 1 and thing 2 back in yeah. You think you've just crushed the whole argument with that, don't you? You think you've covered that ludicrous, obvious contradiction you just discharged because you granted women the magic words institutionalized and systemic. Then one of those is obsolete. Once you have the institutions, systemic is just a byproduct. So who has the institutions? Who has the universities? And what is being taught in those universities? It's feminism, Fawn. Very often the radical kind that even you don't like. The kill all men people are in many cases in charge of the learning institutions now. The learning institutions, Fawn. That's where the learning comes from. And that means pretty much fucking everything. And in those institutions, they are telling us that boys are rapists and fathers are unnecessary. Your pinky toe has just emerged out of upside down land, and it's feeling the bracing chill of reality, Fawn. You might not like it at first.
Here's how your argument wouldn't have sucked.
Do tell.
If you're discussing sexism within feminism, it should be about how some parts of feminism could actually be really problematic.
Really problematic for who? Men?
How some parts of feminism could actually be really problematic for
Boys?
feminism could actually be really problematic for
Families?
really problematic for
Women?
be really problematic for trans people.
Are you that convinced that feminism is not problematic for any of the people I've just mentioned? I mean, is all that shit solved already? Or is that still a case of needs more feminism? Is everything in the world still a case of needs more feminism? Except maybe for trans people. The one area in which you should maybe back off a little bit, because none of you can even think of a series of buzzwords to help you grab a scrap of a clue as to what the fuck you're talking about when it comes to that particular rigmarole there.
As well as people who don't sign to any gender and people who are gender fluid.
I do feel for those people, because, they're people. But I find myself considering the immortal words of Spock. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. It's a very simple principle of logic, and it appears to be diametrically opposed to social justice. Social justice is the proposition that the needs of the few outweigh the needs of the many. It is, isn't it? Yeah, at least it would be, if it were the least bit consistent. I can't imagine any of you, at any point in the future, pulling your wagon back and putting down the vast tomes of painstaking propaganda the moment heterosexuals are in the minority, the moment whites are in the minority, the moment men are in the... Oh wait, men have been in the minority since forever. Fuck me, I will never understand you people.
A lot of mainstream feminism at the moment needs to work a lot harder on being more inclusive.
I'm too lazy to head desk at this point. Yeah, you get the idea.
But men can get raped too. I can't stand this argument. You have to be a certain level of horrible to pit victims against each other, whatever gender.
That sounds instinctively like another massive head desk moment, but if you think about it, feminists don't just pit victims against each other. For the most part, they ignore the actual victims and pit rich cunts against each other.
Also, I find that people use this argument a lot when discussing rape culture, and actually they don't quite know what the discussion is about. I want to handle this the right way because feminism supports all victims of rape.
While defining rape as something committed by a penis and only a penis. Maybe you disagree with that, Fawn. But if so, the people you are disagreeing with are the feminists who affect our laws. Not just the feminists. Most people who you don't even identify as such will gladly and straight-facedly say rape is defined as a penis penetrating something. And then later in the conversation, or perhaps earlier, they will remark that the majority of rapes are committed by men. Just the majority. If you're defining rape as penis penetration, then it's 100%. Isn't it? Yeah, so they will flip seamlessly from 100% by definition to majority by data, just back and forth to and fro, no care in the fucking world for what a complete statistical arse they are making of themselves. When all you needed to say was forced penetration happens more often than forced envelopment. That might well be true, but you just can't fucking say it. You have to say this short series of gymnastic flips. Only penises can rape. ... Most rapists are men. It's intrinsically nonsensical and self-contradictory, but it's what you have to say. Because the only alternative is admitting that there is such a thing as forced envelopment. And you don't want to speak of such a thing as forced envelopment, because that might lead you to conclude, as the theoretical believers in equality that you are, that forced envelopment is simply called rape. And should be called rape, according to the law, as it currently is not. Might that be slightly more important than being inclusive of trans people? It's a separate point, remember. How about being more inclusive of female rapists? I mean, including them into the category of violent criminal. What do you think is more common? Trans people or female rapists? Go on. Think of the developing countries. I mean, without the glasses. Once in your fucking life.
But in the context of why your argument sucks, we are fully aware that men get raped too. We are not ignorant.
But the law is. And you're not trying to change that. The only changes feminism is trying to make to the law is to try and make it easier and easier for women to falsely imprison men for rape. And for women to rape men. And boys. And rape whatever they like, basically. The law is trying to help women catch up to dogs. In terms of sexual privilege. Dogs can already, in case you've noticed, rape a baby, and his parents will simply laugh about it. By no means am I saying free Ian Watkins. I'm saying if you have a problem with Ian Watkins, why the fuck do you have a dog? Don't cut its fucking bollocks off, just don't fucking have it. What are you... What? Whoa. How this relates to feminism is... it involves lateral steps, shall we say.
What we were actually discussing was rape culture, so not the act itself. Rape culture is when you ask victims what they were wearing.
Rape culture is police reports, folks. Rape culture is when you try to identify people on the CCTV footage, when you try and figure out what the fuck happened so as to bring rapists to justice and perhaps prevent rape. There it is, folks. Trying to prevent rape is rape culture. The police force needs to step the fuck down and let the gender studies departments deal with this. So we can herd every rape victim into a pig pen and watch them anally bleed on the news. Oh, I'm getting too drunk.
Were they flirting beforehand? Asking if they possibly had too much to drink. Whilst anyone can get raped, rape culture predominantly affects women.
I don't care about your fantasy anymore. I don't fucking care. The legal system is leaving male rape victims out to dry, and all you can talk about is a rape culture you fucking made up. That, if anything, also affects men more than women. Imagine a man going to the police and saying, "A woman raped me." Should the police ask that man any questions? Or should they just break down the door of the accused woman and have her face plastered across the media tomorrow evening? Either also subject women to this post-apocalyptic bullshit, or don't subject men to it. I bet I could get 20 people here saying Whoopi Goldberg raped me. She passed me the joint and said, "Let's fuck, so rape." That's ridiculous, isn't it? And probably racist.
Men do not get asked if they were showing too much skin.
What do they get asked? Fawn. If a man accuses a woman of raping him, what is he asked? He's not asked of a damn thing, Fawn. He's laughed at. And not just by the fucking police, by his friends. Maybe not his family, if he's lucky. I'm sure feminism's working on that.
Rape culture is currently ingrained in society. There are people that would never rape anybody, but sometimes their actions and sometimes their words might contribute towards rape culture.
Does that, or will that, ever include you? And if not, does that not make you part of the problem? Yeah, if I sat here and said, "It is impossible for women to be oppressed by men," do you think that might contribute to some kind of ingrained rape culture? If, for instance, millions of people believed me?
Here's how your argument wouldn't suck.
I cannot wait.
Every single rape prevention tip is geared towards people being in charge of not getting raped, not teaching rapists not to rape. So there's the big problem. The other problem in that is that most of these tips are aimed at women, with colour changing nail varnish, for example.
Thank you. Thank you so much for finally giving me an opportunity to bring this up in a video. The fucking nail varnish thing. If you invent a adherent chemical that can act as a fucking pharmaceutical laboratory at my fingertips, literally at my fingertips, then my response is, holy fucking shit, that's awesome. This is genuine James Bond shit, for real. I can literally identify chemicals at my fingertips. All right? That is a typical geek response to this chemical. And a whole other layer on top of that, as an anti-rape activist, I go on to think, holy double shit. Not only is that awesome just as a scientific achievement, it also has ingenious practical implications in everyday reality. This is awesome science, and it can prevent rape. God damn it, I fucking love being human. I fucking love that people can do this. This is amazing. Okay, so that was an anti-rape activist's response to this chemical. Before that, you heard a science geek's response to this chemical. A category of person separate for both of these things is a feminist. A feminist's response to this chemical, as you just heard, is how the fuck is this supposed to help us demonize men? You see what I mean? All this chemical does is give more power to the people. More sensory data. And you have a problem with that. Because you are not in the business of giving power to the people whatsoever. You never have been. You're in the business of standing over the dead and dying bodies of boys and men and taking gigantic shits on them. You've been claiming this whole time that roses are going to grow in your shit, but it's been over a century now and there's no roses, just shit. It's very obvious at this point that it's not about the roses, it's about the shit. That's why you will spit in the face of scientific ingenuity, like anti-rape nail polish. Because you don't give a shit about actually giving women more power. You only give a shit about taking power away from men. This is why you disgust us all, men and women alike, because you have completely lost your fucking way. You will sacrifice your own fucking self-respect for the sake of shitting on men. Well, all people, actually, just especially men.
There needs to be more done to prevent rape for everybody, such as those glasses that change colour when they detect a substance. That way everyone can be safe.
You just can't be arsed, can you? That's what it is. Why should it be your responsibility? Eh? The venue at which you're drinking should be the one supplying the miracles of chemistry by replacing all their hundreds of regular affordable glasses with hundreds of specially ordered colour-changing glasses and just hoping they don't get stolen or broken with any regularity. And so should every bar in town. I mean, what's a few cubic tons of colour-changing glasses here and there? It certainly makes more sense than me putting a single drop of colourless solution on one of my fingernails. And how the fuck is it aimed at women? They discovered a chemical that changes colour in drugs. You can put it anywhere. You can put it on the end of your fucking shoe if you like. But the moment someone discovers you can put it on fingernails, it becomes sexist. Put it in a test tube, not sexist. Put it in a bottle, not sexist. Put it in exactly the same bottle, but label it nail varnish, and hey fucking presto, it's sexist, and victim blaming, and rape culture. And why? Because when it's called nail varnish, it looks suspiciously like you might be attempting to give this power specifically to women. Why the fuck do you not want to give power to women? Mad shot in the dark here, but might it be because great power comes with something?
Well, that's just my opinion. Before any argument, you're going to have to show that you know what you're talking about before your opinion is valid.
The reason I'm getting so much material out of you is you literally can't get through 2 fucking sentences without delivering an incredibly stupid opinion. And you're not validating any of it.
I can tell you that I think socks have emotions. That's just my opinion. It doesn't make it true.
But it's your opinion that it's impossible for women to oppress men. And that totally makes it true. Because you obviously know what you're talking about, in your opinion.
Most of the time this has been used because you said your piece, somebody else has come back with personal experience or references, or anything really, and because your argument doesn't extend past that's that, then you swiftly state that that is your made-up opinion.
I mean, this is fucking uncanny! Are you seeing it?
Instead of saying that's just your opinion, try saying, I thought of this, but I'm not going to do any research on this, because I feel like I am right.
Yeah, when you finish talking to yourself, then maybe you can start telling other people what to do.
Please do your research, because without it, no one has a leg to stand on.
How much research did you do into how much it would cost a licensed venue to supply anti-rape receptacles? Did you do any research into the chemistry behind all this? Or did you just hear about the existence of anti-rape nail varnish and think, why? Why would God drop such an unholy ointment onto the earth all of a sudden? Unless it's to blame women for being raped. Bad patriarchy! Take away this devil's balm. Just tell young boys they should suppress all those rapey urges they definitely have and give them a smack on the head just to make sure. That's what prevents rape. I mean, that's just my opinion, but I blatantly know what I'm talking about, so it's fact.
I am so sick hearing about feminism. Shocker, so are we. Please help us not have to talk about this all the time.
Let's grab that key phrase, shall we?
Please help us, no, 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 please help us, no.
That is what everyone is fucking sick of.
Well, I'm a woman and I don't find that offensive.
Or in other words, I'm a woman and I don't need help. This is your diagnosis of a woman who claims she doesn't need help.
This is quite a hefty topic about internalized misogyny, and that is a whole other video.
Please do not fall for this shit, ladies. It's either you need feminism or you hate yourself. Those are the only two options that feminism gives you. If anyone comes to you saying you need X or you hate yourself, are you going to buy their fucking product? Are you going to buy X? Or are you going to inch slowly backwards out of the building and then do the droopy dog thing where you get a cab to the airport and fly across the world and then, then she's there behind a palm tree disguised as a flamingo puking some sand?
Your argument sucks because you do not speak on behalf of all women.
Okay! Okay! Time for the special head desking hat.
Neither do I. Neither does anybody.
This is not a good head for hat desking. What? Oh, fuck. Back to the classic.
Except maybe Beyonce.
Is that you electing a pope? Please do. It would make this a lot easier.
When you say this, you're choosing to ignore the negative ramifications that this particular thing might have on other women.
Right, so, okay, if you've got two women, one of them is offended and the other is not, which one of the women is correct? I do not have an answer to that riddle, Fawn. To me, there is not enough information in it in order to answer it. But you have just answered it. And the answer is the woman who is offended is always right. And the woman who is not offended should shut the fuck up, chill girl, internalized misogyny, snowflake, slut. Absolutely, regardless of what the offensive thing is in any given situation. Every time a woman is offended by anything, it is every other woman's duty to also be offended by it. And you still don't understand why people don't like feminism.
You may even be overlooking the negative ramifications this could have on you. Either way, it's a really selfish argument.
Ah! Overlooking the negative ramifications on yourself, or overlooking the negative ramifications on other people, is a really selfish argument, either way. You didn't think a fucking thing through, did you? Not a fucking thing. Overlooking the negative ramifications on other people is called selfishness. Overlooking the negative ramifications on yourself is called selflessness. They are absolutely perpendicularly opposed to each other on the metric of selfish arguments that you yourself just established. Be it selflessness or selfishness, either way, it is selfishness. That's your description of a woman who dares not to be offended when you are. She's selfish no matter how unselfish she is. I mean, that's essentially all you ask of women, but it's, fuck what? As a woman, you may not be an individual. You must be part of the fucking capriciously and perpetually offended hive mind we call feminism, or you are sentenced to eternal judgment by flat out fucking self-contradiction. So let me get this straight. You are here to empower and inspire women unless they claim they don't need help and they're not offended. In which case they're internal misogynists and they should shut up and fuck off because they're selfish. Yeah, no. What they are, my darling, is self-sufficient. And you cannot stand the idea of a self-sufficient woman, because a self-sufficient woman, by definition, is failing to devote her time on this earth to shitting on men. As I said, you're not interested in empowering anyone. You live to make other people's lives more shitty. You start with men, but from there you go all over the fucking shop.
I can't tell you how to feel about things.
You just fucking did! You just told women, if you're not offended, then you're being selfish. Please own your shit. Or at least don't fucking lose it in the same goddamn sentence you found it.
That's up to you, but don't throw everyone else under the bus in the process.
Please don't guilt trip women into being perpetually offended. That sounds to me like a really good description of throwing all women under the bus. For the sake of killing all the men on the bus.
Yeah, but what about men's rights?
This is going to be good. They're just as important as women's rights, right? According to anything that can legitimately be called equality. Like, the right to intact genitals, the right to be a parent, and the right not to be a parent.
Men already have all the rights.
You are a twat.
I think people use this argument a lot because it's hard to see just how something affects your life until you don't have it.
You are a colossal dickhead.
I'm middle class and white.
And female.
I come from extreme privilege.
Acknowledge your female privilege, please. Can you do that? As a female, you can have a child whenever you like and never have to pay for it if you don't want to. And no parts of your body have been amputated against your will because the law will not allow it. Men do not have these human rights, but you do. Are you capable of acknowledging this? Or does it all fall under the magical umbrella of impossible?
And if it wasn't for people talking about it, I never would have thought about it.
Are you listening to what I'm saying, Fawn? Are you taking it all in? Or are you contacting the authorities and saying I harassed you? And can you remind me of what oppression looks like?
Because when you're privileged, you don't have to think about it.
When you're truly privileged, you can't think about it. It offends you to think about it. So you tell whatever lies are necessary to marginalise and imprison anyone who does think about it.
Also, men's rights movements that are around now don't even care about men.
Okay, you could go ahead and have an argument with yourself, darling.
The problem problem is the men's rights movements do not support male victims of rape.
You're going to have to show that you know what you're talking about before your opinion is valid.
They do not support male domestic abuse victims.
Your argument doesn't extend past that's that.
They don't support trans men.
I thought of this, but I'm not going to do any research on this because I feel like I am right.
Do you know who do support them? Feminists.
Please do your research because without it, no one has a leg to stand on.
To repeat, you are a cunt the size of deep space. And roughly as cold.
Feminism is ruining movies. /series /comics. This argument gets rolled out every time something gets launched with women in it.
No, it's every time something gets relaunched with women instead of men. A lot of people go, why didn't you just write a new story, create a new world with women already in it, instead of just injecting women into existing franchises? And it's because, once again, you are not interested in giving women power. You are only interested in removing men from whatever you can get away with removing them from. Including the government.
Basically.
Yes.
Why is it totally fine to expect women to enjoy and relate to things that involve mainly men?
Because not all women hate men. Fawn.
But as soon as more than one woman comes on screen, we're taking over?
No, again, when you kick the men out of the vehicle and say, we're taking over, that's when you're taking it over.
Here's how your argument wouldn't suck.
I just listened to what you're about to say, Fawn. And what you're about to say is the point I am making. And it is the opposing point to the point you are trying to make.
Just injecting female characters into a film or a TV series and not spending the time developing their characters or even writing them not only ruins the movie and the TV show, but also puts a massive hindrance in women in the industry, and it's crap.
You are the most confusing person I've ever listened to. Not the most insane, not the most aggressive, but certainly the most confusing. You do not have any fucking clue what you're saying at any point in your life. Other than that ever-faithful constant. Women are victims of life. Everything else is woo-wah, that way, this way. Who the fuck cares? As long as everyone sees women as victims. You are less than worthless, Fawn. You remove worth from other people. You are a worth sink.
That means I can hit girls, right?
Who says that? Whoever says that.
Don't hit anybody. Why do you want to hit people?
Well, Fawn, it's probably because our society doesn't teach people that it's not okay to hit anyone. Our society teaches people that it's not okay to hit a girl. So people hear that, and their first internal question is, so who is it okay to hit? And the answer is fucking obvious, isn't it?
Is it like really hard to live, restraining yourself from hitting people all day?
It is if someone tells you that it's impossible for you to oppress anyone. Some people don't like that. It makes them feel powerless. So you go out and punch a boy, and nothing happens. No retaliation, no punishment. So you punch another boy. Still nothing. So you punch, but before you know it, you're beating the shit out of everyone in your path. Going, why won't anyone hold me accountable for what I'm doing? Why is no one treating me like a fucking human being? And it's because it's not okay to hit a girl, but it is okay to hit a boy. It's because people keep fucking saying that. Because it's misogynistic to believe anything else. You can't just say it's not okay to hit anyone. You have to specify which gender can indeed be hit. Because of hate. Fawn, I try not to use that word too often, but when it comes to the linguistic chicanery used to enforce the beating of boys, I'm frankly duty-bound to call it hate. The word has to mean something.
You're using this argument as a quick way to put feminists in their place, to make them think that this isn't actually what they want.
Sometimes you're wrong, Fawn. Sometimes when someone points out that you're wrong, it's because you're wrong. Did you know that?
The other thing is that you're already hitting us.
Am I, Fawn? Fuck, I'm terribly sorry. So, not only is it impossible for women to oppress men, but it appears to be impossible for men not to be constantly physically oppressing women at all fucking times. I'm so glad I met someone out there who is on top of this equality thing.
In the UK alone, 1.4 million women and 700,000 men are suffering from domestic abuse. So we want you to stop hitting us.
But you just don't feel like not hitting us. Even when we're children. Because you're stressed, after all. I don't know how legit those numbers are, but they obviously don't include the children who suffer domestic violence. Particularly the kind that goes unreported. Probably because the vast majority of those victims are a somewhat inconvenient gender. Boys get beat. Then they grow up and beat other people. Looks to me like the answer is don't beat the boys in the first place. So it might not help that all we're saying is don't hit girls. But what the fuck do I know?
Not all men.
Okay, so how would you go about responding to the argument, not all feminists are like that?
If we're discussing something about men and it's not something that you have particularly done, then that's great.
Bearing in mind that feminism is a belief system that people deliberately choose to adopt, and masculinity is just a roll of the genetic dice.
The reason why your argument sucks is because you have to understand that many men have done this. A majority even. It's always sucky to have to acknowledge that something that you're a part of has bad bits, but that's just life.
But you are not in the least bit perturbed by anything done by other feminists. By other people who choose to adopt the same ideology as you. Because feminism is good no matter what any feminist does. And men are bad no matter what any man does. You are a nasty little fucking bigot, Fawn. You love your own dogmatic belief system infinitely more than you love your fellow man. And it will always win.
So stop driving conversations back to you because it's not about you.
Yeah, it's about you, Fawn. That's all it will ever be about. It's all you fucking know.
This argument gets used a lot when women do things to protect themselves and are a bit defensive. As we mentioned earlier, rape is up to us to stop.
Yes. It is ultimately up to me to stop me from being raped. But you don't feel the same way about yourself, do you, Fawn? As far as you're concerned, it should be everyone else's job to stop you from being raped. And that, my dear, is how this whole fucking empire works.
And that's when they say, but not all men. Like, you may not be a rapist, but you've got to acknowledge why women do certain things to protect themselves.
Unless it's nail varnish. In which case they're protecting themselves for completely the wrong reasons. You are such a fucking idiot. And hey, there's quite a lot of straight men out there who don't want any physical relationships with women. A lot of them call themselves MGTOW. Do you think they're making that decision in order to protect themselves? Or do they just hate women?
You can't take these actions personally because there is a much bigger picture than you.
Yeah, and it's you, Fawn. You are the biggest picture in the universe. That is what you have shown to be your most consistent opinion. That has been the onus of your every answer here. Yeah, but I'm more important than you, so shut up. You monumental axe wound.
The thing with all these arguments against feminism is that if you wanted to have a proper discussion about it, you would have Googled it and done your research, but you didn't, which makes you an arse.
I don't have to Google it. I only need to tune into a feminist channel and listen. And I will get yet another comprehensive demonstration of what feminism is. Every last one of you, without fail, will claim, I'm not one of the bad feminists who believes in all the man-hating shit. And then you go on to obliviously reveal that you are, from top to toe, exactly one of those feminists who believes in all the man-hating shit.
I didn't mean to attack anyone in this video.
You just called everyone an arse. Everyone who disagrees with you and doesn't get all the information they need from a single Google search is an arse, according to you. And meanwhile, men's rights advocates don't care about men because you say so. Fuck Google. Everything on the internet is wrong now because it's men's rights. You are completely fucking lost in your own goddamn ego, woman. But yeah, calling someone an arse is attacking them. Yeah, I've called you all kinds of things, and yes, I'm willing to call that an attack. I'm using my words to attack your words, so in this context, it can be said that I'm attacking you. But I can admit that, Fawn. Do you see? I can call you a monumental axe wound, but I will not turn around literally 1 fucking second later and say I don't mean to attack anyone. Unless I'm being very obviously sarcastic, and you are not, Fawn. You will attack people and then straight away claim you're not attacking anyone. After all, it's impossible for you to impress anyone because you're the oppressed. So you could be the world's pissiest little madam and still think you're an angel. Horrible. Horrible, horrible person. Oh, no, I'm sick of you. I'm literally sick. I'm not doing anymore. Fuck it. Normally I can make it to the end, Fawn. But you are gastrically unbearable. Please keep making videos by all means. It's important for history's sake that these things are recorded. Good luck, everyone. I'm sorry I wasn't particularly funny for this one. Concentrated fucking nuggetry like this leaves very little room for light-hearted breathing. Everything you said here, everything, contradicts something else you said. I could go back and poop it all together like before, but I don't want to look at your face ever again. If I had a machine that did the clip pooping for me, I still wouldn't use it. I'm pretty sure the people in my audience would rather see extended shots of me than short, humorous bursts of you. Because you are that fucking abhorrent. I wish you luck on your quest to feel an ounce of fucking shame once in your life. Thank you for providing this much material. I guess I mean that. Goodbye. Fuck long into the good night.